Well, Bryce or Austin, you're supposed to do the intro there.
I told you. No.
Okay, Bryce, you do the intro. Go ahead. Do an intro.
Hey, man, welcome to another edition of the 6-Yard Dash. I believe this is now this is the third week I've been on it. I got today with me up in the top. I think that's my left. I got Nick Eubanks, and right, I got Austin Wilson. Bringing you the news, catching you up this week on football.
Awesome. It was a good week of football, right, guys? I enjoyed it.
Great week of football. Football's back.
Football's
so
back.
happy. Also,
We got some pretty crazy news coming out of New Orleans right now, and it is the Michael Thomas injury. Do you guys want to elaborate on that for me a little bit?
Yeah, you never want to see a guy like Michael Thomas get injured unless, you're an NFC playoff contender. But, it's just a blow to New Orleans. They got a really nice victory over a really talked about Buccaneers team, and I thought they just kind of went quick work of them and made sure that, people knew that they were the top of the NFC South, and to lose your best player like that, it just hurts. Hopefully he's okay. He should be back within the next, I think they've said 5 to 6 weeks. I think he'll be okay. It's just how can the Saints offense kind of function without him, seeing that, last year he was so vital that he kind of was the entire offense, especially when they didn't have Drew Brees. So it'll be interesting to see, can a guy like Traquan Smith step up and fill that second role now that Emmanuel Sanders is going to have to play the number one. It'll be interesting to see.
They have a phenomenal check down in Alvin Kamara, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, screens down Kamara. I'm not saying he's going to replace Michael Thomas by any stretch of the imagination. Let's not get that twisted. But as a good receiver to go down, Alvin Kamara is a pretty good back to have to carry some slack. And Emmanuel Sanders is no slouch in the wide receiver position. So I think obviously it's going to hurt them detrimentally, but Emmanuel Sanders can step up and be a number one receiver if he needs to be.
Absolutely. I mean, Sunday, he was pretty limited anyway. I think they limited it to 3 catches, and they still won pretty easy. I mean, not saying that doesn't hurt your offense, but I look at their schedule. It's pretty easy the next few weeks. I think they'll be fine without him.
I think so, too. I found it interesting that Michael Thomas got injured. So he actually got injured during the game, right? And then came back out and played for a couple snaps and then left, right?
Right.
Am I mistaken by that? Okay.
No, that's how
I found it awesome that he actually finished it out, but you got to wonder how serious it is. Do you guys know what the actual diagnosis was?
It's a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
High ankle sprain.
Dangerous, especially for a receiver.
Especially of his speed too, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely running all those slant routes, changing directions.
Yeah,
Right.
I could see him
like that.
Yeah, I could definitely see him missing more than 4 or 5 weeks. I'm thinking maybe 6 to 7, just to be sure he's 100%.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely don't want to see Michael Thomas out at that long, but I would prefer for him to be safe than sorry and make sure he's good to go, then come back and re-injure.
Absolutely.
All right, so we also got the Van Der Esch and Jarwin injuries. You guys want to tell me about that?
I'll take Jarwin. I was kind of on the Jarwin hype train, man. I thought he was going to break out this year with that Mike McCarthy offense. I hate to see him really get going before he even got started. He ruptured his ACL pretty early on in the game.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to his season, but what do you got, Austin?
I was excited to see him as well, especially with them getting Jason Garrett and Jason Witten out of the building. I was hoping to see a younger tight end utilized in that offense, and it's just really sad. I thought he could have really been something, like you said. They also lost Leighton Vander Esch for the foreseeable future on defense. And when you talk about a guy who's got a lot of potential, especially on a very lackluster defense, if you look at the Cowboys' defensive statistics last year, your bottom 3 in interceptions, tied for last in sacks. You can't afford to lose that many defensive players. And when you lose a guy like Leighton Vander Esch that can really control the middle of the field, kind of do it all linebacker, that's a huge blow to your defense. And it'll be interesting to see who they kind of use to fill that gap, because I mean it's going to be very apparent that he's not on the field.
Heartbreaking loss in Dallas, obviously, between both of the guys. But let's move it up north. Let's move it up north and talk about the Allen Robinson requested trade.
Great news.
What are you guys' thoughts on this? He says great news. Of course he says great news. Okay.
Allen Robinson's a hell of a receiver, and he doesn't want to be in the dysfunctional Chicago locker room anymore. I think the reports came back that they offered him a contract, and he was kind of insulted by it, really, what they were looking to spend on him. And I think it's kind of more the fact that he doesn't want to be in Chicago anymore. He wants to win. He's a really good wide receiver. He could be, a huge contribution on another team that can actually contend for a title. And Chicago's not that. I think he should come to Green Bay. That's just me.
Oh, man, I hate it for A-Rob, man. I think with a good quarterback, which he's never had, he's a top 5 receiver. I think he is. I think he's got that kind of talent. But you got to think this man's had Mitch Trubisky and Blake Bortles for his whole career. That's all he's ever had. That is pathetic. So I hope they do trade him. It's somewhere with at least a competent quarterback.
Yeah.
Squandered talent, really, in my opinion. It kind of not to the degree of Calvin Johnson, obviously not to the degree of Matt Stafford, but Allen Robinson is one of those wide receivers where if you had plugged him in a different place, say maybe even how Amari Cooper has been moved to Dallas, and we're seeing a difference than when he was with the Raiders. Maybe Allen Robinson going somewhere else would benefit his career.
Definitely.
Let's move out to the Marlon Mack injury. He's going to be out for the season. What are you guys' thoughts on this one?
It hurts. He's my fantasy running back. My running back, too, is out for the
Always
season.
detrimental.
Jonathan Taylor's mine, so it doesn't hurt me too bad. I'm not gonna say I was happy to see him get hurt. You never want to see anybody get hurt, but I was kind of like Jonathan Taylor. He's plug and play now.
I have a really big concern with Jonathan Taylor. I think he was easily the best running back coming out of college.
No doubt.
But he's so far into his running back career already, and he's a rookie. I mean, they abused him at Wisconsin. He's already 1,000 carries in. And we've kind of seen, as of late, you've seen, Todd Gurley last year. You've seen Zeke kind of slow down a little bit. There's kind of a wall that running backs kind of hit after a certain amount of carries. And I think Jonathan Taylor is already halfway there as a rookie.
Well, to be fair with the Todd Gurley, Todd Gurley had knee issues in high school and college. So,
you're right.
Zeke, Jonathan Taylor has never been hurt. I think he's going to have a long career.
Let's run to these comments real quick. Let's say what's going on to Brandon. Brandon, thanks for showing up.
What's up, Brandon?
What's up?
I think this is a time for them to go out and try and find. As we were talking about, Taylor has, many reps in college, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to try for them to go and fish into that free agent market and try and find somebody to cover down and give Taylor a little bit of breathing room.
Well, I think Nyheim Hines actually did a pretty good job of that when Marlon Mack originally went down. I think Nyheim Hines is a guy that's often overlooked just because he plays behind such a dominant offensive line, and Marlon Mack usually gets the lion's share of the carries. But I think we'll actually start to see that Nyheim Hines has, a lot to contribute as well when he's the split back with Jonathan Taylor.
My concern,
great third down option.
My concern, that's what I was going to say. My concern is he seems more of a third down option. If people are looking at him for the fantasy, I wouldn't go grab him because he had one really good week. That's what I'm going to go out. That's kind of where I was getting at. So the Marlon Mack injury, obviously we moved on from that. So we'll go ahead and start talking about some of the games of the week and maybe just trying to point out a couple things that we thought were pretty interesting. Let's start with the Eagles versus the Washington blank football team.
What a game.
Jesus Christ.
The Eagles came out and scored 17 and then coughed it up at the end. I wrote the Washington football team off from the start. Even being down by 17 points, I'm thinking, man, the Eagles got this. But sure enough, they scratched and clawed their way back. And I was impressed by the team. Dwayne Haskins put it on his back.
Yeah, he absolutely did. He showed that he can be mobile with the football. He was running around, moving outside the pocket, making plays. He's being the guy that I always knew he could be coming out of Ohio State. You can definitely see the dedication he's put in the offseason kind of showing through. And then you give him, a coach like Ron Rivera. But he's the least of the worries of the Philadelphia Eagles right now. They need to worry about the fact that Carson Wentz was sacked 8 times and harassed by that Washington front seven. You have guys like Chase Young and Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne and Matthew Ioannidis. Ryan Kerrigan got in there. They were all over him. And if the Eagles want success moving forward, they have to fix that because they're going against a guy next week named Aaron Donald, and he throws linemen. So I kind of feel for Carson Wentz right now, but he didn't play a good game by any means.
What are your thoughts on it, Bryce?
Yeah, man, I had a parlay card. I'd covered on all 5 of my games, and I lost the card on the Eagles game. I was sick. $1,200 just gone. It was painful to watch. Like you said, Carson Wentz didn't have he was sacked 8 times, but he was holding on to the ball.
Yeah.
Redskins really surprised me. He didn't look good. Wayne Haskins did not look good in the first half at all. I think that's where he needs to improve. He's got to be good the whole game.
Yeah.
He was throwing balls in the dirt. But, yeah, man, I was pretty upset. with that game. That was the one game I was sure. I started not even to watch. I said, it's going to be a blowout, and it was. But
yeah, I thought the Eagles were going to roll them, but
yeah.
Yeah, I wrote them off.
Like that.
I wrote them off from the get-go. I did not anticipate that happening, and maybe we can just attribute that to not having preseason games and them not knocking the ring rust off. I don't know, but I'm definitely not going to be sleeping on the Washington football team as hard as I did this week. Let's move it on. Let's move it on to Miami and New England. Cam Newton. What are you guys' thoughts on his Patriots debut? What were you guys' thoughts on how the Dolphins handled it? What are your guys' thoughts? Go ahead.
Dolphins look like they'd never stepped on a football field before.
Yeah.
Look like they've been practicing basketball all week. It was a very simple offense they ran. It was just a read option. They didn't they were throwing the ball, they were checking it down.
Yeah. And
the Dolphins could not catch up. I didn't understand why.
I'd like to point out that I think the Dolphins are missing Raekwon McMillan in the middle of the field.
They are. They traded him away.
Definitely benefited from having him on the field. He's a really talented inside linebacker. And just having Jerome Baker there I don't think is enough right now. But the real story is we're kind of seeing – we know that Josh McDaniels was the head coach in Denver when Tebow was around. And we've seen that he was able to win games with that, option offense, and now he's got a guy who's kind of specializes in that in Cam Newton. I think they're going to keep doing that. I think they're going to keep running Cam. They're going to start trusting him a little bit more to throw the ball. It's going to be a slow progression. Bill's not just going to let him, fly off, because that's kind of the Patriots' offensive scheme. They're going to do to you what you're bad at. So they play the Seahawks, right? And the Seahawks were terrible against the pass this week. I could definitely expect Cam to be throwing the ball more than 16 times.
So I want to point out, I thought it was funny. It's not really relevant to the game, but it popped up in one of these forums that I'm a part of. And correct me if I'm wrong anybody, but it seemed like what was told to me is sometime in the 1970s in week 1 was the last time that the New England Patriots had ran for a touchdown in week 1 from their quarterback.
Wow. That is accurate.
I found it hilarious that Cam Newton ran for 2, and then Tampa Bay had Tom Brady run it in as well. I just thought it was funny, and I wanted to point it out.
Yeah. It was nice to see Cam back on the field.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how well he can operate. They need to get better wide receivers out there in New England, and I think things can start moving in a not championship caliber team, but in a better direction.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and check the comments real quick. We got Brandon, which guy, non-rookie, with his new team had the biggest impact? Bryce, what is your thoughts on that?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I like seeing. Let's just go to last night with Davion Clowney with the
Davion
Titans.
Clowney.
He
That's
was
where I
a
was going to go.
yeah, he was a force last night. I mean, he sacked Drew Lock on the first drive. He kept him under duress the entire game. He shut down the run game. He looked good.
I loved Jadeveon Clowney in Seattle. Whether you want to look at the stats and be like, oh, well, he had 3 sacks, 4 sacks in Seattle. The guy's always disruptive.
It's how
he's always behind the line. He changes how you play because of his presence.
Right.
And he didn't skip a beat moving from Seattle and not having really kind of any offseason with any team up until a week and a half ago.
He looked to be in good shape.
Yeah. And dude, he was disruptive in Tennessee. And I think he obviously, you said it too, made the biggest impact for a non-rookie.
Yeah, I would agree.
So let's go ahead and move it over to Minnesota and Green Bay.
Oh,
and
yes.
Let's go ahead and have our Green Bay expert go ahead and take the floor.
Well, first of all, Nick, I'd like you to issue a former apology.
I apologize.
To 1600 Lombardi Avenue. Nice little letter, because my Packers, it wasn't if you look at last year, the story of our team was the running game and the defense. But there's a guy that everybody forgot about who plays quarterback. It wears the number 12. He's pretty good. And he reminded everybody that he's really good. Aaron Rodgers was phenomenal yesterday. We kind of seen the signs through training camp, or at least I did. He was having more fun in practice. You seen him smiling on every, news media, every picture of him, he was smiling. Aaron Rodgers is in a good mood. He's in a good place right now. And that translates to him playing better on the field. He was unstoppable.
I don't want to point the finger at Aaron Rodgers so much as I want to point the finger at Davante Adams for catching everything but a cold. Everything but a cold. My dude ended up with 14 receptions, tying a single-game franchise record for the Packers.
By Don Hudson.
Davante Adams was on fire. He was electric. And you're right. Aaron Rodgers put on a damn show. But, I do want to apologize. I had the Vikings winning this one.
Oh, man. I'm this is going to make a theme, like a motif. It's week 1. Let's calm down. Mike Hughes, Jeff Gladney, and Cameron Dantzler. All those guys are under 24. We're starting at corner. Aaron Rodgers looked great. The Vikings opened up as favorites, which shocked me. I thought I betted on Green Bay to win. That was an easy bet. But same way with Cam in New England. It's week 1. Let's calm down. He feasted on babies out there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's going to be doing the same thing this week against Detroit. So,
same thing.
Speaking of Brady, how many losses will it take until we hear Brady is no good without Bill?
Yeah, I heard it after 1. Yeah.
I'm already hearing it, but I don't think that that's necessarily the case. These guys are all superstar weapons that the guy is working with. You got Leonard Fournette, you got Goodwin, you got Evans. Even OJ Howard is a good tight end, dude. Yeah. He's got the weapons. He has the weapons. Now, how long does it? The O-line is a problem, yes, but how long does it take for them to start clicking it all together? I don't know. But I didn't think they looked awful. I didn't think they looked terrible. The Saints are a well-established team.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd been crazy for anybody to think that Tampa Bay could beat them. I definitely didn't think they could. No OTAs, no preseason, no new quarterback, new system. I think they'll beat them next time they play them. I think they split the series with them, but I knew they weren't going to take this one.
Well, let's talk about the game in its entirety now, since we've already been moved to it. So what were you guys' thoughts on the game? And I feel like we kind of already got brushed over it, but give me a little bit more in detail.
I don't know how anybody can watch Tom Brady anymore and say there's no regression. There's clearly regression in his reads, his passing. he throws a nice ball still. He could still sling it, and I'm not denying that. But some of his timing is off. And
sling it? Did you say
Yeah,
sling it? Dude,
he was zipping it Sunday, though.
I mean, but how many of those slung passes really went anywhere?
Yeah, it's
you know what I'm saying? I just want to bring up the argument just because
No.
the most successful we've ever seen Tom Brady is the dink and dunk.
Yeah, he's having. I seen a few spurts in the the Saints game where he was wildly inaccurate with the football. With that throw to Mike Evans up the seam, and he throws it late and inside when the corner had inside leverage. It's just a bad read, bad throw.
Well, see, Bruce Arians came out this week. He watched the tape. That was Mike Evans' fault. He made a bad read. Wasn't on Brady. Look, I'm gonna stick up for Brady to the day he retires. Brady's the reason I fell in love with football.
Oh no.
You know, I think the timing. I think everything like that will get better as the year goes on. It's week one. It's week one, guys. Let's
I 100% agree with you. I think things they don't have normal training camp. They don't have normal preseason. These are most of these guys, other than freaking Goodwin and Evans, are moved from other teams. They got to start clicking. They got to start clicking. You know what I mean?
They'll even struggle this week against Carolina.
I think it might take them a few weeks, honestly.
Yeah, but it's a 16-game season. Like they'll be all right.
It's not like we've reduced from 162 games to 60, guys. We're still playing a full season.
Yeah, I would like to point out I was watching Undisputed with Skip and Shannon earlier today, and Skip Bayless was talking about the Bucs will have no other competitor like the Saints to face all year. And I would just like to remind him that they play the Green Bay Packers this year. And
I mean, to be fair to Skip, Saints are favored to come out in the NFC.
To me, the Saints are favored to
That's what they look. That's what Vegas says. I'm just going off what Vegas said.
But Green Bay is in the NFC. So is San Francisco. So is Seattle. So
I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's clearly going to be Dallas this year.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Am I right, Gavin?
Oh yeah.
He's out there somewhere.
All right, let's move it on to the Colts and Jaguars. Let's skim over this one because it really wasn't. I mean, other than the fact that Gardner Minshew, like everyone was talking about, Gardner Minshew's just kind of a so-so quarterback. I feel like he played phenomenal for week one. He played great, and he brought the Jags to promised land.
He did.
Don't ever doubt a guy with a mullet. Don't ever doubt.
I mean, Joe, you got one of the best non-Super Bowl winning quarterbacks on the opposite side of the field, right? You're playing against Phillip Rivers, excuse me. Phillip Rivers. You're playing against Phillip Rivers. Gardner Minshew came out, and I feel like he played better than Rivers did.
Oh, he
no doubt.
Phillip Rivers struggled.
He looked terrible.
Let's be honest. He looked like he's regressed a lot in the offseason. I'm a Minshew doubter. I'm going to be the first to say it. I still think that Jacksonville is kind of in a tank mode for Trevor Lawrence. But Minshew did look really good. I don't know if that's a testament to him or just a really poor game plan by the Colts. But Minshew did look good. I mean, he only missed on one throw. I think he was like 19 of 20, had 3 touchdowns. He's definitely benefiting from that young receiving core around him. That I forgot the Laviska Shenault looked really good.
They look good.
DJ Shark looked good. I think Mitchell's a guy that can make some throws. I question his arm strength a lot of times. But right now, he's a guy for now. I think the Jaguars are kind of in the same position as the Panthers right now. They have their guy for now. Teddy Bridgewater's not the next 10-year franchise starting quarterback of the Panthers. And I don't think Minshew's the next 10-year starter for the Jaguars.
Definitely. He'll end his career somewhere else, but he's a good quarterback.
I think it'll take him a little while to develop. I would love to, and I've said it many times on this short period of time we've been on this show, but I'm a huge fan of quarterbacks that are young and up and coming sit behind a veteran quarterback and learn. Whether it even be Tyrod Taylor, sit behind Tyrod Taylor for a little while and learn some stuff, dude.
Yeah.
That's
He's
all
been
I'm
in the
saying.
league this long for a reason. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right. Let me see here real quick. We got agree with all your points on Brady, but we will know with every loss he has and when the Pats will gear see it. I don't know what that's saying. Sorry, man.
I think the gist is Belichick doesn't need Brady, which may be true, but Brady's a winner in his own right.
Exactly. I just wanted to quickly talk about this just because, me being the Seahawks fan that I am. Russell Wilson had one hell of a game, and that hashtag let Russ cook.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
It was amazing that we finally reached out. We finally let it be said to let Russell Wilson play the game that we know he can and not rely on the running game so much. They still ran the ball a decent amount, but don't get me wrong, Russell Wilson won that game for the Seahawks.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers kind of battling it out for the MVP race in the NFC this year. I definitely think Russ he's got to be in the conversation. The things we've seen him do over the last 3 seasons where he hasn't received a single MVP vote is just disrespectful.
It breaks my heart being a Seahawks fan watching the things. When you talk about MVP, you talk about most valuable player. Well, when we look at Patrick Mahomes getting as much talk as he's getting, well, how many weapons does he have in comparison to what Russell Wilson has when it really breaks down and boils down to it, right? When we're talking about MVP, that defense of the Seahawks was horrible last year. Yeah, they wouldn't have been anywhere where they were at last year if Russell Wilson wasn't behind the center.
Yeah. The defense.
And I'm not saying he deserved MVP. I'm just saying for him not to get any votes is absolutely heartbreaking and disgusting.
Defense. The Seahawks defense is worrying.
Yeah, they are.
I'm actually a little bit more relieved watching Sunday's game, as opposed to last season, because what the secondary looked okay in comparison to last year. When we're looking at last year, we're talking about they gave up tons and tons of yards on Sunday, right? But we didn't have as much pressure up front to give those guys enough room to get the coverage that they needed. And I feel like that's changed now that we got Dunbar and we got Adams. Adams has already made an impact with 12 tackles and a sack.
Yeah. I mean, he's a top 10 player in the NFL. If you're not discounting quarterbacks, arguably top 5, he's going to make an impact.
Absolutely. You guys got anything else to say about the game?
You guys said it all, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on to the Cardinals 49ers. Man, what?
Love it. I love this. I love to see it. Dude, they were +7 coming out on the line. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that every day of the week. I was like, they're going to crush they're going to beat the 49ers. They did. I mean, they just let Kyler Murray loose throwing the ball.
What happened to the defense tackling and stopping Kyler Murray? I don't know what he ended up with, and I didn't watch the game in its entirety, but I watched it off of Red Zone, right? And every time I see the Cardinals 49ers game on Red Zone, Kyler Murray's running down the field. He's like just breaking loose with his legs and going.
And if it wasn't him, it was DeAndre Hopkins.
Absolutely.
D-Hop went for like 150. It's the scary sight to see, man, really. If you're a Seahawks fan.
Yeah.
I think anybody in the NFC, man.
Yeah, it's a great sight to see if you're a Packers fan. I love watching the 49ers lose after last year.
Yeah. So can we attribute this to the Super Bowl hangover, or do you think Arizona is that good right now?
I think it has a lot to do with the 49ers being in a kind of a slump because of losing in the Super Bowl, but they were also really injured. I mean, you had no Deebo Samuel, no Brandon Ayuk. You lost George Kittle in the second quarter. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy who can elevate players around him to kind of make plays. He needs everything to be kind of going his way, playing with a lead. Where have we seen this before? A certain guy in Dallas, that
Jake's
kind of,
favorite quarterback.
yeah. So I just think that we've seen the limits that San Francisco offense has when they don't have all those playmakers on the field, especially Kittle. I mean, they looked okay without Ayuk and Samuel, but as soon as Kittle went down, it was like they had no offense. And then another thing that worries me is that, Richard Sherman's in that secondary, and Richard Sherman's a really good corner. So then why is DeAndre Hopkins putting up 150 yards?
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, as a Seattle Seahawks fan, because Richard Sherman can only play half of the field.
Yeah, he hides in that cover 3, cover 2 zone. He never really takes and follows the best receiver on the field. And that's going to hurt them because they have Jason Verrett, right?
Stays hurt. Yeah, he stays hurt.
Yeah, he's constantly banged up. And that's worrying, especially when you play
thoughts on Tart? Tart, right?
Oh, Jaquiski Tart.
Yeah,
Jaquiski Tart.
Right?
Yeah.
Safety.
Yeah. So that's worrying to me when you have guys like DK Metcalf in your division, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. You got to play Devontae Adams again this year. Your secondary is kind of a liability right now if you're a 49ers fan.
I think, honestly, even with the Rams winning this week and the 49ers kind of dropping the ball due to injuries, God, this is the deepest division.
Yes.
It is scary to me watching any of these NFC West teams play.
All 4 of those
insane.
teams playoff teams.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing you guys kind of skipped over is Kyle Shanahan obviously does not trust Garoppolo. I think that was obvious. He is still, even falling behind, was taking the ball out of his hands. I think that's the biggest thing I took away from that game.
Yeah.
And that's wild, right? I mean, because your expectations of Jimmy Garoppolo have such this high ceiling, but we don't I'll go back to the let Russ cook hashtag. Do we let Jimmy Garoppolo cook?
No. You don't want to eat if Jimmy Garoppolo's cooking.
I love it.
He's just so limited to me and what he can do as a passer. I think there's a lot of overhyping him. Again, like I said, he's one of those guys where he has to have everything going right for him to look good. Playing with the lead, you got to have all your playmakers on the field. The O-line has to be hitting getting all their blocks. But you throw pressure in his face, and your receivers are injured, and you don't have Kittle to, as a safety blanket. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, he can't really play quarterback in this league. He can hand the ball off to Raheem Mostert or Jerick McKinnon. So if that continues to be an issue with, if Kittle's injury is severe or wide receivers stay banged up, I definitely think we could see a huge pullback from San Francisco this year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Are they a first to worst team in that division?
If they are, they're going to have their quarterback.
Here's the problem that I have with that. I'm not sold on how well the Rams are doing right now, as I'm not sold on that so much as I'm convinced that the injuries took its toll on the 49ers and the Rams just had a good day. Any given Sunday. You know what I mean? While we're talking about it, any given Sunday, all I'm hearing is how great Dak Prescott looked, but they still lost.
The Rams are not a bad team. I don't understand why people are kind of, brushing them off. I mean, they looked good the other night. I mean, Jared Goff looked all right. I think Sean McVay did a great job calling that game. He called a lot of screens, a lot of check downs, short passes. Didn't give that rush time to get to Jared Goff.
Get the ball out of his hands.
Defense looked good.
Yeah, the amount of time between when Jared Goff is snapping the ball and throwing it has reduced so much. And they even talked about it on the broadcast. And I noticed it. It was crazy because Jared Goff has an awful offensive line.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not. They're old and just not good.
And their adjustment for it was really, really impressive.
Yep. I mean, Dallas, say what you want about them, they're loaded on just about every position outside of the secondary. The secondary can be weak.
On paper, they should be one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is they're not.
And that's scary.
They're a top 3 roster, but they are not a top 10 football team.
What are your guys' thoughts on McCarthy's debut and play calling?
Underwhelming.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think he showed he takes shots, which Jason Garrett didn't do. That's what they were trying to get rid of when getting rid of Jason Garrett, was they wanted to take shots. It was an unfortunate call there at the end.
Yeah.
But I think it was obvious pass interference, but that was a good call there at the end. I mean, you go for it. Don't punt. I like this play call.
This is the NFL. You take shots.
Right.
Yeah. My thing with McCarthy is that, I've seen his kind of offense play out, and it does get to a point where it's kind of predictable and stale. And I don't know how long it's going to be fresh in Dallas. Especially because, you're playing a team like the Rams. They have one really good corner. The secondary outside of, him and John Johnson, we don't really know yet. But I don't know. I'm not sold on the Rams as a legitimate team yet.
I'm not yet either. If they were in any other division than having to play the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Cowboys, I would give them more credit. Or the Cowboys, the Cardinals. Excuse me.
They weren't. I mean, they weren't terrible last year. I mean, they were a play away from being 10-6. I mean, I think we can all say 10-6 a good year.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. They went 9-7.
Oh yeah,
they went 9-7 and they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, so I mean, they were a couple plays away from 10-6. So
that's what I'm saying is even with the uprise of the Cardinals now, we're looking at 4 teams in an entire division that are playoff teams. And I think just because of that, the Rams are on the low end, and that's why I give them so much, flack, because they're in the division with the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the 49ers, Super Bowl, appearance team. It's a crazy division.
Yeah.
I just wanted to brush over this Titans and Broncos game real quick. We talked about it when Von Miller went down. All right. We talked about and Derrick Henry still ran for 100 yards. Don't get me wrong. But I felt like it took a while for us to see Derrick Henry hit that 100 yards. And I thought that the Broncos defense without Von Miller looked pretty good up until that point. We're looking at 10 points on the board that Gostkowski left off by missing kicks. I don't think the Broncos did terrible, and the Titans need to look somewhere else in the kicker position.
Yeah, absolutely. Denver didn't look awful. Denver, I mean, they still have guys on that team. When we said, Von Miller was going to kind of take them out of contention, I still think that that's the case just because of the division that they play in. You need all of your best players on the field. But they're not a bad team by any means. And Drew Lock, I think, has potential to be a really good quarterback in this league. He looked really good. Jerry Jeudy looked really good. Noah Fant looked really good. They have a lot of young playmakers on that offense. Their problem is they need an offensive line because Jadeveon Clowney was just a game wrecker. He was everywhere, and you can't allow that, especially with a young quarterback. You can't let a guy like that just consistently be in the backfield and making plays like that.
Denver, to me, looked young, which is what they are. That's what they looked like. Jerry Jeudy dropped a couple key passes there. Like you said, the offensive line, the few good offensive linemen they got are young. Defense is young for the most part. That's just what they look like to me. Very talented, but very young. I think in a couple years, if Drew Lock develops, like you said, like he should develop, they're going to be a force. Them and the Chiefs are going to be a force out there in the AFC West.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up our week 1, recap. So let's get into talking about all the games of week 2, and we got 20 minutes to do it. So let's not,
speed round.
Yeah. This is going to be a rapid fire here, guys. All right.
Alrighty.
Give me your thoughts on Cincinnati and Cleveland, and we'll start with Bryce. Let's go.
I'm taking Cincinnati.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna shock the world here. They played a Chargers roster that is just as talented as the Browns roster, and had a game-winning drive on the board. Joe Burrow looks legit. I'm taking Cincinnati. Cleveland looked pitiful last week.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to take Cleveland. I still believe in Baker Mayfield, and I don't believe that if you kind of look at, Tampa, for instance, all these new pieces, all these guys, new coaching staff, new system with Brady, and then you throw them to the Wolves against the Saints. I think it's kind of the same situation with Cleveland. New tight end, two new guys on the offensive line. You have a new coach. And then you just throw them against the best team in the AFC, top to bottom. Baltimore just rolled them. It didn't even look fair. So I don't think Cleveland's going to play nearly as poorly against Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati kind of looked good. I liked a lot that I seen from Joe Burrow. Like you said, he's legit. But I don't think that he's going to be able to do enough to beat Cleveland. I think Cleveland wins in a relatively close game.
I am going to have to take the tiebreaker and give it to Cleveland simply because I feel Cincinnati is not as established as Cleveland is. Cleveland has all the weapons. They have all of the reason to win this game. And, honestly, all that I saw from Cincinnati last week was Joe Burrow playing well.
Yeah.
That's kind of all I got. And I don't think that Cleveland's defense is going to allow him to scamper for touchdowns like he was getting last week. I'm going for Cleveland. Let's move right along. Let's see the Giants versus the Bears. And we'll go to our resident NFC North expert here. Let's go, Austin. Tell me what's going on here.
All right. So these are two dumpster fires of teams. Let's just get that out of the way. Chicago scraped away with a victory on a DeAndre Swift, rookie making a mistake, dropping a touchdown. That's the only reason they won that game. Mitch Trubisky had a nice fourth quarter, but the rest of his game, the beginning of that game, he was pretty pitiful. But I hate to say this, but I think Chicago starts 2-0 this year. I don't think the Giants are any match. They looked terrible against Pittsburgh. Saquon Barkley getting 6 yards is unacceptable. I think it was 13 carries for 6 yards. That's not going to work. I think, that's not going to work. And Chicago's got a good defense. You got Khalil Mack. You got Akeem Hicks. There's guys on the defense who can play. And I think Saquon probably struggles again. They probably get him involved in the passing game like they did against the Steelers. But I think the Bears win this game, again, relatively close. They're going to get after Danny Dimes, and I don't know how he's going to be able to play with Khalil Mack in his face.
All right, so I'll just go ahead and break the ice here and give a hot take because I think Saquon Barkley is going to look at what he did last week, and he had more than 6 yards, but was taken behind the line so many times that it just diminished his yards. So Saquon Barkley is going to turn this around against the Chicago Bears defense. You guys talked about how great the Bears defense was, but honestly, I didn't really see too much from them last week, in my opinion. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to carry them with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to a New York Giants victory.
That is
Nick, that's a good fantasy there, but I'm going to bring you back to reality, be the tiebreaker, and give it to Austin. I'm going Chicago. That front seven, that Giants offensive line is awful. The front seven for the Bears is very talented. They're going to keep Danny Dimes under duress. They're going to fill the gaps and stop Saquon Barkley. I don't even think it's close, being honest. I hope I'm not wrong and don't eat these words next week, but I don't even think it's close.
Hot takes. I'm telling you, hot take right here. New York's going to win this one. I got to get a wild card in. All right. Los Angeles Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll start this one. I I don't like the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles allowed the Washington football team to scrape back from behind. And I thought that the Rams operated at a good level that they could beat the Philadelphia Eagles next week. I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go right there with you. I think Aaron Donald. I mean, have you guys seen that video of him tossing Looney into Martin and knocking the whole offensive line over? Have you guys seen the video?
Yeah,
This
Aaron
guy-
Donald's ridiculous.
One of the
He's
best
ridiculous.
defensive linemen I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think they're just going to pick up where they're just going to feast on that offensive line. Wentz is going to have another rough week. Sean McVay he's changed up his game plan a little bit. I'm sure he comes in with a great game plan for this week against the average Philadelphia defense. So I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, there's no devil's advocate here. I'm taking the Rams as well. You look at how Philly struggled to protect Carson Wentz and how Carson Wentz played when he was under duress. I think it could be even worse with Aaron Donald on the field. I think Carson Wentz is probably going to turn over the ball a few more times. And I don't really see what Philly's identity on offense is yet.
Yeah, they
haven't found any. They're out there with spread offense. They're out there with double tight end sets. They're not a power running team. They don't really have an identity on offense yet. I don't think they're going to be able to start firing on all cylinders until they figure out what they're really capable of on offense. So I got the Rams. The Rams know what they are.
How's it going, Heather? We always appreciate your presence. We'll go ahead and move it over to Atlanta versus Dallas, and we'll start with Bryce.
I'm taking ATL here. Matty Ice threw for 450 last week. Like I said, a good Seattle defense. Not great, maybe not even. But besides that, Atlanta looked good last week. I actually thought Atlanta would give Seattle more trouble than that. They got no expectations this year. Nobody expects anything from Atlanta. I think they ride that. I think Dallas is still trying to figure out what they're doing on offense. So I'm going to I definitely take Atlanta.
Garbage time points from Atlanta makes that Seattle Seahawks and Atlanta game seem closer than it was. Dallas looked good, and the Rams seem to have been clicking on all cylinders against Dallas. I don't see – and Matty Ice always throws for 250, 300, 400 yards. It's pretty regular for him to do that. I'm not surprised by that against the Seattle defense. I cannot co-sign Atlanta winning this against Dallas in Dallas. Give me Dallas.
Takes, Nick. Hot takes. We gotta go hot takes.
All right. I mean, I'll do the tiebreaker. I'm gonna go with Atlanta. Like you said, they played really well against Seattle. Matty Ice was really good against Seattle. Seattle has a Russell Wilson. I mean, it's really hard to overcome that, especially when you don't really have that great of a team. Atlanta's not stacked by any means. But then you're going against a guy like Dak Prescott. You can force him to make mistakes. The biggest issue with Atlanta is going to be containing Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke feasted, even against the Rams. He still feasted. That's going to be the key to them beating the Cowboys, is shutting down that passing game and making them run the ball, and then being able to contain Ezekiel Elliott. Hopefully they don't do too good of a job of that, because I have him in fantasy. But yeah, I'll take Atlanta on this one.
Matchup to watch. Julio Jones is probably going to line up with Trayvon Diggs sometime throughout that game.
Bama versus Bama.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs looked good the other night. He was all around the ball. So that'll be a good matchup to watch.
All right, let's get the comments here real quick. What's your thoughts on Patricia? Matt Patricia. Tell me what you guys thought about that. Fire him. Yeah. Oof.
Fire him. Get him out of there.
Nothing about Matt Patricia when I look at him says head coach. Just nothing about him. And if he proved me wrong with his coaching, which he has, and I think he's 9-23 since he's got to Detroit, it's time to get him out of there.
Yeah,
okay, before you go there,
good.
How many games have we seen that the Detroit Lions have lost between one score? And do you attribute that to Matt Patricia's coaching?
Yes.
Or do you attribute that to crappy play.
I think he's the worst situational coach in the NFL.
Okay.
When it comes to a game on the line, we have to get this X amount of yards. He's not that guy.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move right along to Carolina, Tampa Bay, and we'll start with Austin. Austin, give me your thoughts on the Carolina Tampa Bay game.
I think this game could be really interesting. Carolina showed some things that I really liked. Last week, they have that home run hitter. I don't know if you heard of him, Christian McCaffrey. He's pretty good.
Never heard of her.
He's going to run all over Tampa, just like he runs all over everybody. So I think this could go either way. I think Tampa's still going to be struggling on offense. Their defense looked pretty good last week. They really weren't letting Drew Brees do whatever he wanted to them. Devin White in the middle is a monster.
Yeah, he's crazy.
He's in on every play. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Carolina has a chance to scrape this one out and get a win.
Yeah, I find it hard. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
I'm going to take Carolina as well. I think it's going to take a couple weeks before we start seeing. I think it's going to take a couple weeks before we start seeing Tampa Bay really start clicking. There's going to be back and forth, and I think it's going to be a game of nutrition, right? Attrition. Carolina's going to have it with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to talk to Jake, man, get some new co-hosts. I don't think I know how you take anybody other than Tampa Bay. Carolina lost to the Las Vegas Raiders the other day.
The Las Vegas Raiders are not a bad team.
Oh, no.
I'm with you. It doesn't. How are you going to take Carolina over Tampa Bay? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
we'll be talking next week.
Yeah, when Carolina loses.
When Carolina wins.
I don't think it's going to be close, man. I mean, I love CMC, but I mean, they lost to the Raiders, who are not a bad team. They're not a bad team, but I mean, come on.
We were talking about how good the Raiders were last year until they got hit with injuries.
They were, but they're not on the same level as Tampa Bay.
They beat the Carolina Panthers, who have Christian McCaffrey. He's not going to win Super Bowls. Come on, man. Don't do that to me, bro. All right.
And that's it, man. Tampa Bay by a touchdown.
We'll move on. Next game. Let's go. San Francisco, New York Jets, excuse me. God, Le'Veon Bell's injured now with a hamstring injury. We didn't talk about that. Are the Jets even a football team? They should be the New York football team. Stop calling them Jets. Nuke this team. They're done for. They're cooked. Stick a fork in them. San Francisco wins by a landslide.
Oh my God! Come on.
Okay. So here's the thing. I think if Kittle's out, which we don't, I don't think we know if he's going to be able to play or not, and you're still missing Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, you're kind of stale offense against stale offense.
You don't need a good offense to beat the Jets. You just need a good defense to stop their ass offense.
I'm going to take the 49ers, but I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'd say the 49ers by 2 scores.
2 scores. I like
Plain
it.
and simple.
San Fran by a field goal.
Plain and simple. Oof. Denver, Pittsburgh.
That's a good game. That's a good game.
I got Denver.
Woo.
This is a hot take because Pittsburgh, top to bottom, is a better team. Their defense looked phenomenal against the Giants. So we can't really say how they looked. Right. We could just say they looked pretty good against the Giants. It's definitely gonna be a better offense to play against, minus the fact that they don't have an offensive line. I'll take Denver. I just think they have more big play ability. Especially now that Melvin Gordon is going to be the running back 1, along with the backup. I don't remember who the backup is in Denver.
Talking about Philip Lindsay, but he's hurt.
No, the other one.
Royce Freeman, maybe.
Him, yeah. So I think Pittsburgh is going to struggle a little bit more this week. You look at James Conner did not have a good game. He got hurt, right?
And his sprained ankle.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming a pattern now with James Conner injuries.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
I don't know if Benny Snell is going to be able to do what he did against the Giants to the Broncos. So I got the Broncos winning this one.
You look at the Giants defense versus the Denver defense, and we literally just talked about this, right? I think that the defense of the Denver Broncos looked pretty good without Von Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. Like, it's not great. It's not fantastic. It's not a top 5 defense, but it's good enough to compete with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Denver in this one because I think Drew Luck is going to click on all of his cylinders, and Denver's going to pull this one out.
Man, look, I love Drew Lock. I love that offense. I think he's the quarterback that pops this year. But I got to go Pittsburgh, man. I'm going experience over youth. Like I talked about earlier, Denver looked young last week, and they were in Denver. Where's this game at? Is it in Pittsburgh?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm taking Pittsburgh. Not by
pick.
Like I think
you can change your pick. You can change your pick.
Yeah, I'll change my pick. I didn't realize the game was in Pittsburgh.
You guys,
I'll take Pittsburgh.
Are you guys really gonna try and act like home field advantage makes 100 times the amount of a difference as it did last year? Last year you have fans. Last year you have fans. Pittsburgh Steelers do not have fans in the stands.
But you're forgetting something. It's September, and the Broncos play a Mile High Stadium.
Come on, man. They've already had snow
man.
this year.
They've
already had
get ready to play at that stadium. That's an advantage. The fact that Denver's got to go from that high altitude to go into Pittsburgh, that is an advantage to Pittsburgh.
From Central Time to Eastern Time is
Juju did have a really good game last week. You're absolutely right, Tim. Let's move along to Jacksonville and Tennessee. Man, outside of Gostkowski missing 10 points, leaving 10 points off of the board, Tennessee crushes last week, in my opinion. Give me Tennessee. Jacksonville played good. Minshew looked great, but Tennessee's going to pull it out.
I agree. I think Tennessee is going to win this game pretty easily. I think Jacksonville was not really the real deal. They looked good, but I don't know how much I can really put stock in that. I'll definitely take Tennessee. Do you guys want to do a speed round where we would just say our picks?
Let's take this one because we're running out of time. But I'm gonna go Tennessee, but I'm not gonna go by much. I don't think their roster is that much better than Indianapolis. I don't think their quarterback's that much better than Indianapolis. So I'm gonna go Tennessee, but by a field goal.
All right, go ahead. Give me Detroit, Green Bay. Go.
Green Bay.
I got Green Bay as well. Let's go. Buffalo, Miami. Taking Buffalo, no doubt.
Buffalo, no doubt.
Minnesota, Indianapolis. I'm going Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I will go with Minnesota as well.
We're going to go Washington, Arizona.
Arizona.
Let's go Baltimore and Houston.
Baltimore,
and it won't be close.
I think it's going to be Baltimore, but I think it'll be closer than everybody's thinking.
Blowout.
Kansas City versus the Chargers. Kansas City
won't be close.
Kansas City.
Seattle for me.
New England.
Seattle. And I'm a New England fan. I'm taking Seattle.
New Orleans versus Vegas. New Orleans.
The Saints.
New Orleans.
All right. As we got 30 seconds, give me a real quick. What are you most excited about in week 2?
Tom Brady. He's going to bounce back.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm looking forward to seeing how Cam Newton is going to play against Seattle, against Seattle's defense. Cam Newton, how you're going to plug in and do what you need to do. All right, guys, we've got 2 seconds, but I'm still going to do a little plug here. Make sure you guys are watching all of the shows the rest of the week. What's today? Today's Tuesday. So Wednesday we got Squared Circle Talk. Then Thursday we got Behind the Basket and Inside the Ice. And then Friday we Leave You Alone. And then Saturday Yep. And then Saturday, we got me. I'm actually doing an interview finally on Saturday instead of regularly during the week. I'm sorry. I started losing my breath there. And then Sunday, we got Gavin with Circus Monkey Sports. So make sure you guys are watching all of the rest of the shows. Thanks for tuning in, Heather. Thanks for tuning in, Tim. Thanks for hanging out with us, Brandon. I'm Nick. That's Austin. This is Bryce. This has been the 60-Yard Dash.
Bye, guys.
Take it easy.